there were 3, a Frenchman and 2 Koreans. But which Korean is going to the Grand Finals? It is the 2 Koreans that played in the Season 1 Grand Finals in France. They join us on stage for the second semi-final, and joining me on stage is, of course, Chris Huck Loranger.
Better.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And, of course, Jeff in control, Robinson, who are going to be helping us talk and understand the 2 players coming up. But there's not too much to really know about these players that we don't already. These both players have been around for a very, very long time. From the beginning of StarCraft 2, pretty much, they've been around. Before that, of course, Hydra played Brood War, Polt played Warcraft 3-ish, like not super high level, super professional, but he was around. And here we are, 2015, a repeat final, Jeff, in the semis.
Well, that's what's incredible about it, is that it was just last season WCS that we already had these guys clash, and it was a great series. Rotterdam was talking about that just the match before, coming back from a 3-1 deficit to win. Absolutely amazing, and both players are in good form. So that's what's exciting about this too, is it's not guaranteed that you can remain consistent each season. In fact, StarCraft's one of the harder games to remain consistent. That's why, much to the chagrin of a lot of hardcore players, the term like Bonjour is almost never uttered in StarCraft 2, is because especially in StarCraft 2, we really haven't had that player that's dominated from season in and season out. Yeah,
and WCS starting to provide that this year, and Season 3 could be the same as well. But both of these players, Chris, have absolutely dominated this tournament so far. They've looked so very good. They've smashed every player on the way to the semifinals, and now they go up against each other.
Yeah, it's really hard to say who's going to come out ahead here. I mean, in my opinion, of course, I think Hydra's a little bit ahead of Polt, but Polt does have that mental game going into this. He's already beaten him. He's consistently beaten him, and Hydra kind of has a monkey on his back as far as just not ever willing to go the distance, you know, getting that championship under his belt.
I mean, he's played in 3 finals this year. The big one, of course, being Season 1. This time, he's back for revenge, Jeff. He played in the finals. He got ripped away from that finals. If you think of it, he was up 3 games to 1, and somehow, some way, Polt was able to crawl back to Game 7 and take the championship away from him. Hydra has been saying he wants to play against Polt. He's been hoping for this moment, and he has it right now in the semis.
Yeah, I think you gotta like Hydra's position. Like even if you look back to his loss to Polt, to be up 3-1, on the one hand, it's easy to be like, well, you let it slip and it's gonna haunt you, and that's more the pang of like, oh my gosh, I really should have closed that out. But at the other hand, too, he looks at it and says, I could have closed that out, absolutely. In the 3 games that he lost, kind of to lose it out, he can look at each one of those games and say, well, there was a moment there where if I make a couple of different choices, I win 4-1 or 5-2. You know, I win 4-2. Never mind. I think he's got a good mental perspective right now.
And we start to think about Polt, the reigning champion here. He's played so well last season, this season. He's looking dominant, obviously, in the WCS. Do you think what he has what it takes to be able to close this out, Chris? No, is it that? But everyone else has been saying Hydra. You can say Hydra too.
I want to say Hydra is the favorite. On paper, I think he's the better player. The thing is I think Polt, I think they're both looking at this match and they're saying, you know what? Whoever wins this is going to win the next match. This is the championship for us, you know? And I think when it comes to those particular situations, Polt always comes out ahead.
Well, Polt is the only 3-time WCS champion in WCS history, and he said he can take a 4th. This is the season. This is the semifinals. This is his chance. Chobra, let's get these players out.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Little Bell's already waiting on top in the finals to see who gets to come and battle him. But right now, as you guys mentioned, both players in this semifinal think this is going to decide the championship right here. Our first player in the second semis, it's the man who's coming back for revenge. He was so close to that trophy last season, but he wants to claim it this weekend. Today, playing for Root Gaming, it is Hydra! His opponent, a man who's been saying since Friday, the result has already been decided. I always play well when it matters. Captain America himself, representing CM Storm, it is Polt! What a day we have on our hands to see a rematch of the season 1 finals in the Premier League. Players, please shake each other's hands, enter your booths, and let's find out who moves on to the very last match.
Last time it was Polt, but who is it going to be this time? The trophy dividing both of them on the front of the stage. And as you've already pointed out, the last time they played was such a beautiful series, going all the way to 7. Are we going to see going all the way to 5? I mean, everyone's looking at Hydra like he's the dominant player, but we never ever can count Polt out. Is this going to 5, yes or no, Jeff?
I want it to. I don't think it will. I really am riding that Hydra hype train and momentum. I feel like he's so calm. He's playing at such a high level, and his ZVT in particular, given even with his opponents, I feel like it looks absolutely ferocious. I don't know. I would love. This is the absolute clash of the Titans pre this tournament starting. They were the 1 and 2, I think, in everyone's mind. Yeah. And I think it's awesome to see them hit here. I want it to be as close as all get out. I want it to be a 19-hour interaction where we all miss our flights and screws everything up. But it's just the most amazing, beautiful StarCraft moment. But it probably won't.
Yeah, no Swarm host. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen, no. Why is Hydra so dominant right now? Why is everyone saying he is the favorite over Polt?
I think among the players, having that interaction with him, he just seems the most confident. I mean, going up against Jaedong even, he said, you know, I'm going to win this. Like, he's a great player, JVZ, whatever, it doesn't matter. I am the best player here. Polt, seems like his confidence is a little faked, to be honest. Just a little, it's a front almost. Hydra, he doesn't seem like a super confident guy all the time, but this tournament in particular, he seems confident. That being said, I think this will go Game 5.
Despite Polt being the reigning champion, I know he's in that booth now, but you think he's a little bit nervous? Everyone's talking about how Hydra's the favorite. Hydra's back here for revenge, and when you've already had something and taken it away from somebody, and you know he's gunning back for you, is this gonna make the champion nervous?
Yes, I think it should, and not to get too cliche and quote like every action movie in the last 10 years, but I think you should be a little bit nervous. I think you should have just, you know, you shouldn't be like rattling in the cage or anything like that, but I think you should be aware of the fact that this is a gigantic opportunity to cement his WCS BlizzCon run. Yeah. It's a huge cash cow as well, and it's a great opponent. But I think Polt, again, it's weird. We should get the number. He might be the most experienced person in the finals of a tournament in StarCraft history. StarCraft 2 history, at least. And he's been doing it for 4 years, so I think he's ready.
All right, well, here is Captain America. Here is the 3-time WCS champion. Comes in at rank 8. He's got wonderful stats. We've already brought it up. He has been so dominant within the system. But what is the key to victory if he's going to win this, Chris?
Just being able to play his game. I think he's actually very confident. I don't think he's nervous at all. It's just going to be whether he gets, you know, the execution that he wants. Hydra isn't going to be as defensive as some of these other players have been, so it's going to be hard to say.
And here is the Season 1 finalist, not the champion, but the second place finisher. It is Hydra, comes in just below the ranking of Polt at rank number 9. Likewise, has very, very dominant stats. And he's back for revenge. Is this going to be a walk in the park for this guy, Jeff? Is this like loading in against another Terran that, oh, it's just another Terran that I've beaten before?
No, it's not. This is going to be a really hard-fought battle. I think even if the score is like a 3-1 or 3-0, each of the games should be tightly contested. He's playing against Polt. Polt's an absolute champion.
And here are the map picks. Coda first up, Iron Fortress, Expedition Lost, Echo, and Vanny Research Station if needed as the final map. Coda, we've seen so many times this weekend as the starting map between the both of them, but not so much about this map, Chris. What is the most important element in Terran versus Zerg that can be the difference between winning and losing for both sides? It is as simple as creep spread, lava injects, scouting, drops. What is the most important?
Mechanically, they're both going to be solid. It's mainly going to be about whether Polt can do damage before Mutalisks come out. If he can do a good amount of damage, get to mid-game at an advantageous, you know, position, he's going to have a good shot of closing the game out. If not, if Hydra plays the game he wants to play, it's going to be hard for Polt.
All right, thank you very much, boys. It's time to go to the second semifinal. Can Polt deal that damage in time before Hydra takes control of it? Let's find out. Let's jump into it. I hope you're ready, Canada.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It is time to kick off the second semifinal and determine who will face Lil Bao in the grand finals of the Season 2 World Championship Series.
Last time these two went up against each other in France, it was absolute fireworks. I would even say, Nate, one of the best series in StarCraft 2 we've seen all year long. Can this one live up to it? Well, we are going to try. And our first map is going to be Coda.
That's right. We can already see the game is underway. Our first player in the southeast spawn, the red Zerg from Root Peas Hydra.
On the left up side of Coda, we have our reigning champion of WCS Premier League. Give it up for Polt.
A very tense match. I think very, you know, when you look at who they have to play, the winner of this series, you would think that this was a final, right, Roddy? You know, a lot of people are going to favor whoever wins this to take out Lil Bao.
It's absolutely, of course, not like that because Lil Bao is playing extremely well. But I do agree with you, and I feel that both players kind of see it like that as well. They look at each other, it's like, all right, you know, we were in the final last season. If we were on different sides of the bracket, we could have probably been in the final again. It's going to be great. Last time it was such a highly contested series. I loved it. Hydra, of course, back then up 3-1, but Polt's going for the almost reverse sweep, bringing it back 4-3. It's funny as well because these two players have run into each other 3 times this year, and it was all within the WCS format. First in the qualifiers for North America, Hydra was able to win. Then in Season 1, round of 16, Hydra was able to win. But of course, Polt, like he said before on stage, he wins when it matters. Well, this one kind of matters, Nate.
Yeah, they've had very interesting paths to get here in this season. I'd say this is by far the greatest challenge that Polt will face in terms of trying to reclaim that championship title. You know, when we look at it, he had the series against TLO, pretty convincing victory, but for Hydra to actually make it this far, to try to contest Polt and say, I'm going to have a shot at the crown this time around, he had to take out, you know, what you could say statistically a much more fierce opponent in J-Dog.
And he was even in a, I would say, tougher group in the round of 16 as well. Even though he didn't play against 4GG, of course, he was in, you know, the toughest group with Bunny there as well. First Reaper made its way across the map. It's not going to do a whole lot, of course, as Hydra will have his links out in time. Now, the last thing I want to ask you, Nate, before we really jump into this match, as this early game skirmish shouldn't really provide a whole lot of action. Hydra just had the opportunity to watch Polt 3 games in this matchup. Do you think that matters a lot, or do you feel like, well, Polt showed a little bit, but most of it came down to control, so it's not going to help Hydra all that much? Terran
versus Zerg is so rooted in the mechanical skill of the players and has, in my opinion, the least, you know, the least impact from strategical choices. That Hydra just has to look at this and basically say it's all going to be about the macro and the micro. It doesn't, you know, it's very difficult to catch somebody off guard, and Polt's not the kind of guy to do anything super crazy. This little Ling run by, though, delaying the natural, you know, it's tiny moves like this that are quite nice.
Yeah, it's very frustrating losing that one SCV and also pulling it off the command center. Means your command center is going to be a little bit later. Polt won't be supply blocked or anything, but still, it's frustrating, and Hydra got out of that what he wanted. Now, I must say, if I look back at that series that Polt just played, I mean, it was phenomenal control. He was sniped every single bailing that he was able to snipe. His Hellion control was top-notch. Nothing got surrounded multiple times. He was just like rotating those Hellions a tiny bit, and he's cruising around with 4 or 5 Hellions, all between 5 and 20 HP. But hey, it doesn't matter. If they shoot once or twice, they can roast the line of links. I'm sure Hydra was looking at that series and being like, all right, if I want to engage those Hellions, I better be damn sure that I can actually surround them.
Yeah, already some interesting choices coming in without the gas yet being taken in the natural. He's going for this Roach Warren, and we can, of course, see your guys' Twitter poll seems to be suggesting you quite favor Hydra yourselves. Polt is actually going for very similar strategy, by the way, to what he did versus TLO on this map, delaying a tech lab and going just for a lot of Marines with a quick medevac and a lot of Hellions as well.
I would say out of the 3 openings that Polt used, I would even say that this was the least successful one. It was just the mid game where he made the difference. As soon as he had Stim, as we seem to have a small hiccup over here, as Polt is showing that he's perhaps a little bit stressed as well in this series. Nate, of course, playing for a lot of money. Backstage, by the way, we're going to talk a little bit about that. You know, we were joking around, like, Polt always wants more money. He's like, nah, I want more points. We're like, well, he's like, WCS points. He's like, I got to go to BlizzCon, man. So, you know, I was like, oh, Polt has won enough money, and then he just kind of smiled at us. He's like, yeah, probably, but...
Yeah. Well, that's the thing when you look at these players' results so far this year. You know, you have Polt, who took the Season 1 championship, hasn't really competed in a large number of other tournaments outside of WCS, but Hydra, despite picking up that second place, he also got the WCS points from the other 2 second places that he's finished in this year. So they're both looking pretty solid there. This matchup does come down to a lot more than just money. It is getting, you know, security, as there's so many more tournaments that will take place before the global finals. You want to like lock yourself into the point where you're, okay, no one can really unseat me from the top 16.
The prize pool in WCS is massive though. Of course, all 32 players will get paid royally, but if you make it to the finals, even if you lose, Nate, you walk away with $15,000. Winning a WCS Premier League will give you $30,000. But all semi-finalists, we don't have to feel too bad for them, even for Bunny, as he will still walk away with $10,000 as well. I mean, that's almost like winning a Premier League tournament at most other stuff. So
yeah, that's so there's already, you know, a lot of motivation for these guys to really push themselves to get to the top and play on, you know, stages as big as this, with crowds as nice and large and awesome as this as well. And for these guys, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. They want to move on to the next stage. They want to make it to, you know, what you could say is the biggest stage of all, the global finals, competing against the best, not only that compete in the WCS system, but that, you know, rank very highly in the other leagues outside of WCS, but also the Korean leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the career of both players, there's a huge difference there as well. Polt has made it to pretty much every single season finals, you know, 2013, 2014, and of course he wants to be part of it again this year. For Hydra, on the other end, this is a unique opportunity. He moved to America for only one reason. He wants to make it to BlizzCon at the end of the year. He wants to win the biggest of all, but above all, you know, he wants to win his first tournaments in SC2. Before this, Nate, we had the opportunity once to meet him at a Red Bull event in Santa Monica, but that was one of his very first trips overseas. Other than that, he's just always been in Korea. So, you know, there's a huge difference, but I must say, Hydra, he seems to be adjusting very well to it. The stages, the crowd. It seems like he's embracing it and perhaps even feats of it.
Yeah, it's one of the cooler things that we've been able to see in the last few years, is especially, you know, players like Hydra who are participating as part of KESPA teams, where they're very restricted in their travel. They've seen the big crowds. They see the hype trailers and all the videos about coming out to Toronto last year for the Intel Extreme Masters, and then now seeing that you'll be playing in Toronto here. And they want to come out and play in front of these massive, massive crowds. Yeah. It's nice to play in the studio leagues in Korea, but when you have hundreds, you have thousands of people cheering for you live, you know, there can't be any experience that's going to beat that.
Couldn't agree more, Nate, especially with a crowd like this. I mean, in general, all you have to say is Canada, and they already love you, so...
Seems to still work. A lot of people. Thank you guys so much for coming down. Toronto, wonderful city.
It is. Wonderful city, wonderful country, and hopefully, Nate, we're looking at a wonderful best of 5 as we are going to resume the game on Coda, as we had a minor technical difficulty. We apologize for the inconvenience, but hopefully, Nate, this will be the only one, and from this point on, it's going to be non-stop TvZ action.
That's right. We have an epic series ahead. Do not go anywhere. You will not want to miss this. This is gonna be top tier. Terran versus Zerg. This series going all the distance. I had the opportunity to cast those games. It was mind-blowing. We saw some of the craziest stuff, really. And you know, you think about it, Hydra had the dominating lead the last time that they played. He won the last couple of matches that they had played prior to that. But this time, it's about, you know, getting that advantage and holding on to it.
And once again, Nate, I think I already mentioned it earlier today. Today, there won't be a Game 7 on Secret Spring, you know? So Polt's going to have to pull out something else, not just because this is a best of 5,
no
not a best of 7
pools
just
either.
yet. Yeah, as that one got vetoed. Of course, Inferno Pools and Cactus Valley are the vetoes for this series. We've got a very straightforward map pool where I think it's safe to say, Nate, that the better player will come out victorious.
100%, Kev. As you guys can see, we are loaded back into the game. You're watching the World Championship Series Season 2 Finals, and we are ready to go. So we are back here, of course, on Coda. If you guys were just tuning in, of course, Polt was setting himself up for a pretty big Hellion attack with a Marine drop to complement it. He has opted for an Armory, so we'll have the option to see him push out some Hellbats, and we saw just how effective that was when Polt played against TLO on Cactus Valley.
Yeah, he actually did a phenomenal job. Of course, TLO was only working with Zerglings. Hydra already has more than enough roaches in position, I'd say. I think Hydra is reading this very well, and I kind of wonder, because I don't even think he has sacrificed a single, maybe he has sacrificed one Overlord. But so far, I would say so good. Hydra is going to spot a couple of these Hellions. He has units in position on the main main base as well, and he's shutting this down so far, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, with the roaches that he has at the third base, those Hellions and the Reaper won't do anything. Shuts down, as you said, the elevator play very, very nicely. And if you take a look at the differences, right, so the TLO, you know, in terms of trying to take down this champion in the previous series, had a very similar successful with defense, right? He didn't have the roaches, though.
No.
His follow-up was a faster Spire, but the Mutalisk didn't really do too much. This game, Polt has a faster third command center. He's got his extra barracks coming in, but we also have upgrades for Hydra. So he's not playing any sort of style that's trying to capitalize on catching Polt off guard.
And look at Polt. Polt seems a little paranoid, Nate. Throwing up 2 bunkers over here, perhaps misreading a little bit what is going on. Perhaps a tiny bit worried about a crazy Roach Ling attack, maybe even a Roach Bane. I don't think he's aware of both Evolution Chambers having down those upgrades, correct?
Yeah, it's a scary spot to be in as a Terran player. You lose Hellions, you're worried about Zerglings just sprinting across the map, turning into Banelings. Those Roaches you see at the third, you don't know 100% that Hydra's actually putting drones on that base. And Hydra is actually going to get Roach speed with this army, so he'll have a very beefy ground force that can deal a lot of damage quickly, but it's going to have a bit more trouble versus, you know, drop play.
And once again, Polt has never seen those Evolution Chambers in the natural of Hydra, and that's really going to slow him down a little bit. He's expecting it to hit any moment from now on. He's already going to salvage his bunker. He's like, okay, I misread that. I'd rather be safe than sorry. But still, though, it's not nice for your confidence, because most of the time you trust your game instincts. And a player like Polt, he's right the majority of the time when he will throw up those extra bunkers. This time he was not.
In an ideal scenario, you want to be planning that third command center down, you know, pre-10 minutes, but the third command center was delayed by his push, and even then, the possibility of a big Roach flood when speed completes, if this drop is deflected well enough, you know, he could delay that third even more with a counterattack.
Yep. Fortunately for Polt, he doesn't have to worry about an Overlord lurking around and trying to drop some creep. That would be even more annoying. But one thing that's extremely important right now is that Hydra is going to enjoy an upgrade advantage for a while, and any Zerg is going to be like, cool, I have an upgrade advantage against Terran. You know, that's not all that bad.
And that's going to be very useful, especially for killing any of those Marines that are, you know, in the process of being healed by medevacs. Now, the follow-up will still be Aspire, so the Roaches are mostly to help beef this army up. I guess the Roach speed is an interesting choice since he hasn't built any more.
I kind of like this though, because he's pulling these units out of position, while on the right side of the map we've got a lot of Zerglings sprinting across. A couple Zerglings in the third base would already be really good. This is not enough. He needs more than 3 or 4 Marines. I really like this by Hydra, Nate.
Yeah, that's a really nice bait by Hydra to pull the army away, and even if he doesn't kill a tremendous amount of workers, he's delayed mining, he's caused more stims, his army is sprinting back and forth, and now Hydra's got his 2-2 on the way, his Baneling speed's coming in, and here come the Mutalisks. Everything he needs to play a solid mid-game is on the way.
And this is the most important phase in the game for Terran. Terran wants to be aggressive. Polt does not spot, by the way, those Zerglings. He had the idea that they may have been hiding in the right top side, but he missed them.
Tucked away.
There is a Widow Mine left behind though, so that one mine, he has dreams right now, you know, he wants to get that money shot. But this is that phase as a Zerg where you don't want to deal with Terran. You want to keep Terran on their side of the map. This is phenomenal for Hydra. Everything is going the way that he has it in mind.
Yeah, ideally, Hydra just pushes out the creep, takes this fourth base, and just builds up. Nice little dodge. He'll lose a few lings, but he's still got enough to apply a bit of pressure and punish this army if it moves too far out. Keep in mind, Combat Shield, of course, wasn't done with that as well.
The doors are open.
Well, you leave your front door open, strangers come in. Zerglings get in the mineral line, and all these SCVs being pulled away. It's actually going to force people to get lowered once again, and he's just denying mining. He's just being a big thorn in Polt's side.
That's actually how I met you. Left my front door open. Suddenly Nathaniel shows up. You want to cast some StarCraft? Like, okay, Nate, I'll do it. I mean, overall, this was a great run by, because again, Polt is forced to return all the way to his side of the map.
All these stims, you know, this army's running back and forth so much, stimming left and right. The medevacs are spending their energy, and eventually he's going to find himself in a position where he won't have too much more to heal with. And now Hydra is going to get on the aggressive. He wants to knock this champion on his back. Moving in now with the Zerglings, with the Banelings, the Mutalisks flying from above and picking up as much as he can. Now Polt gets a really good split. There's still a lot of Marines off to the left side of the natural expansion. He will hold, not giving up just yet in this map. Hydra pushed just before his +2 upgrades completed. It was about as even of a fight as you could get off creep.
Kind of strange to see him attack 20-30 seconds before those +2 upgrades would kick in. The only thing you can say is that the Widow Mines were not in position, but even without that, Polt still had a really good spread on his units, and as always had a couple of great focus fire on those Banelings, or focus fire control in general. So Polt actually getting the upper hand out of that engagement, and Hydra probably second guessing himself right now. It's like, was that really a great idea? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, Hydra maybe getting a bit ahead of himself in that case. You know, it's still game one. Don't want to let too many things like that slip out of your hands, as things to keep in mind. Polt still just playing a very dedicated 3-base setup. No sign of a 4th command center just yet. He wants to power out a lot of bio. He wants to get a parade push going down the center of the map and really keep Hydra back. Push back the creep and prevent basically these run-bys from being able to do anything by forcing him to have everything at home to defend.
I would say for the next 60 seconds or something, that is like a key moment for Hydra normally to get a great fight. Good snipe on that overseer there. There are a couple of Widow mines. These Mutalisks got trapped. I really feel that Hydra has lost a few too many Mutalisks already in this game. Normally a Zerg player like Hydra is not going to bleed Mutalisk, you know, unless he truly has to in massive engagement. But a few here, a few there. It's just, it's starting to become quite expensive.
Yeah, Hydra's kept some forces out on the map looking for opportunities, but you make a good point. Without a lot of Mutalisks, it's very difficult to snipe those Widow Mines pre-engagement. It's very difficult to kill any of the Medivacs as they run away. And now with the Thors coming to anchor, you don't even have enough Mutalisks to really just dive on top of those. So we can see Polt getting ready to push up. He's trying to bait this army out down into the center of the map where all these mines are. And they're going to start to detonate. Even though he's off creep, the Marines take some big hits. Hydra's going to push Polt back and reclaim control of the center of the map.
Wow, even without the majority of his forces, a lot of Zerglings and Banelings on the north side.
Yeah, the Banelings and Lynx come up. The Thor is stuck all in its lonesome. The Mutalisks are going to try to chase down these Medivacs falling left and right. That's all the healing power. They're so expensive, so difficult to replace. Their Polt is being pushed all the way back into his natural. The Thor drop, doing everything it can, but it will go down. And Hydra continues to stream across the map. GG.
What a great moment there in the end, Nate, for Hydra to pick that fight. He looks at that army, and even though the mines were in good positions and he perhaps didn't have vision of everything, what he did see is that he still had that upgrade advantage. And it's really funny as well, because first Hydra is the one who takes a massive fight 20 seconds before 2-2 is ready. And in the end, the tables are turned. It was probably not Polt who really wanted that fight. He was setting himself up for it, and he wanted to wait. He wanted to sing it out, just put a little bit of pressure. And then when 2-2 kicks in, that's probably when Polt wanted to fight. But instead, Hydra just jumped on that opportunity immediately and really capitalized on that upgrade advantage he had from the early game.
Yeah, and you know, just to touch on that early game again, Hydra went into this game thinking, okay, you know, I survive whatever early attack you have. You may be the champion, but I can outplay you mechanically. And we see here, you know, he constantly steps on top of his macro. He has so many Banelings and Zerglings to throw at him. And like you said, with the upgrades, these Marines don't stand a chance. And the flanking force on top is just, you know, that's just the icing on the cake right there. Nothing able to actually retreat because the Medivacs are so low that the Mutas can snipe them.
Yep, everything was so low at this point. Polt just realizing as well, as soon as those depots were down, you have so many Lings and Banelings and Zerglings in your natural, or Mutalisks in your natural. There's no holding that anymore. Coda, game number 1 goes to Hydra. Of course, we are playing a best of 5, so plenty of opportunity for Captain America to come back. And he is a man that's quite well known for his comebacks. One of the oldest stories in StarCraft 2.
Something I like that I'd really like to keep an eye on as we progress through this series. You know, if it were to go to something like a Game 5, the maps are going to get progressively more open, especially you consider that Echo is, you know, Echo's the only other map that's going to give you that super ultra standard feeling. Vonnie Research Station as well, but you know, you're going to see, you know, on like a map like Iron Fortress, for example, that third base, Hydra wants to put on the pressure. He wants to jump on top of him, and well, Iron Fortress is where we're going to go next.
I really wonder what Polt is in store for us over here, because I feel this is a very difficult map to play straight up, to play, you know, for a very long time. There are so many ways that Zerglings and Banelings, and we already saw Hydra utilizing this a little bit on Coda, can just swing around and pull you back. And I really felt that was the key to success in game number 1. Let's not forget those Roaches early game, you know? The Roaches pulled us by, units out of position, couple Zerglings swing in. Didn't do tremendous amount of damage, but 3, 4, 5 SCVs and 12 SCVs not mining, and above all, Polt is not able to deny creep threat on the other side of the map, is not able to get the setup that he wants. Hydra is doing a really good job running around and using the strength of Zerg, which is often their mobility.
Yeah, Hydra did a great job of avoiding the biggest, you know, the biggest struggle of Terran versus Zerg is holding up that 4th base. But Hydra being able to out-multitask a champion player like Polt, who comes into this with the utmost confidence. You know, somebody like Polt is known for being all over the place at once, but Hydra actually had him, you know, running on his heels, you know, trying to get in with the run-by that he got into the natural, of course, trying to get those big hits on the 3rd, and constantly having some Zerglings and Banelings on the map for counterattacks at all times.
We'll see. Spawning position-wise, Nate, what are you hoping for if you're a Terran player and you play Iron Fortress?
I mean, in this situation, I think you're going to want horizontal or vertical spawns. Cross spawns where things get pretty tricky. The other two are both going to be good for drops because you can either drop the 3rd easily or you can drop the natural easily. We are just about ready to kick this game off. As you can see, we'll have those vertical spawns. But first, And you can take a look at these awesome players. We have our red Zerg, as you can see, currently up 1-0 in this best of 5. In the bottom right, he's Root Hydra.
On the right top side of Iron Fortress, we got the man who's representing Cooler Master Storm. Give it up for Polt.
And with vertical spawns, the reason why you look at how this can favor, for example, both Polt and Hydra in their own ways. The map is going to be set up in such a fashion that the third base is really exposed. It's really far away. And if you have Mutalisks go right up to the main, they could go very easily from where the Zerg's base is, and then open up opportunities for counterattacks on the third, as it'll be exposed. And then on the same hand, Polt can go for drops on the natural, while maybe doing some, some side attacks over to the left side third, or perhaps if the third would be taken close to Polt's base, then also, hitting this one, the center position where, as the observer is showing us right here. So things can get a little bit tricky on that 3-base setup. Getting to the 4th is not quite as difficult since everything's going to be very centered, but it really comes down to what they want to do with the fact that you don't know where the other guy is at the beginning of the game.
Polt probably looking for a more successful early mid game as well, because in the last game those Hellions and that drop in the main base, it just got shut down. He did absolutely nothing, and when you make 6 or 8 Hellions and you're even losing a couple of them, you want to do a little more with that. Of course he did force out those roaches, but those roaches served their purpose and they were even very useful in pulling those units out of position later on. So I'm very curious to see if Polt is going to go more all out on the aggression early on, maybe actually morph them into Hellbats, because he did have that very quick armory, but he just decided to never morph them into Hellbats as soon as he spotted those roaches.
I mean, a lot of it comes down to those Hellions were picked off very quickly, and of course, even Hellbats, when they're in lower numbers against roaches, are going to struggle quite a bit. But if there's one thing that Polt we're have to look very closely at in terms of his strategy, his decision-making in this game, is how fast he wants to get that third base and those upgrades. Because the attack didn't do damage, Hydra had a massive lead in that regard. He had his third base up so much faster and had those upgrades as well.
And I even felt that Polt started his upgrades a tiny bit later than he normally would have, because he was throwing up those extra bunkers and he was a little bit paranoid. Normally, if you're getting Roach Bane all in, you don't want to start 1-1, because if that is the case, most of the time the game will end. Polt misreading it a tiny bit. It didn't take forever, but at this level of StarCraft 2, delaying something for 45 seconds or 50 seconds has a massive impact on the outcome of this game. But we'll see. Polt, of course, once again, he has quite the reputation for making comebacks in long series, best of 5s and best of 7s, and even against Hydra, he's already done it once. So no man overboard just yet for Captain America.
I think that's the most important thing to point out. One of the biggest things that makes Polt a champion is his tenacity. He is one of the last guys to lose sight of a series just because he's down a map or 2 or even 3, Roddy. But for the purposes of this game, he is going to open up with a reasonable number of Marines behind this. He's still possibly looking to get a little bit aggressive in the mid-game, but he's also not building that command center on the low ground, which, as we saw in the last game, Hydra was able to delay because, got that little cheeky Zergling run by.
There were just a lot of small things. Wow, not a command center going down immediately, so much more economic opening over here for Polt. Overlord is very far on the south side of the main base, so I think it's going to be relatively difficult, actually. I mean, just 2 Marines, well, we'll be able to usher this Overlord away for now. Do you think that Hydra has picked up on this already? I don't think so, Nate.
I mean, when it really comes down to it is, for Hydra, he's going to try to play the same type of game. At some point or another, with the Zerglings that he has in the natural, he'll know when he should be expecting something. But that particular something can be a bit tricky, since you have to obviously see the gas in the main base to know whether it's going to be a Banshee or something along those lines. But Polt, this strategical decision from him to go for that fast third base basically says, I think I can actually win if it's a pure mechanic game, and I don't put myself behind at the start.
This Reaper, man, this Reaper is just staying alive. It's kind of like saying, oh, no way!
He's got mad hops!
Oh, what a guy.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
He's running through the 6, Nate.
Very difficult to catch, as we do have that. So he's going to get the Roach Horn again, and that's actually really important that you brought up earlier, a potential lack of information for Hydra, not being sure where Polt is headed with this game. This is the safety Roach Horn, unless he's considering going for, some sort of Zergling, Baneling all-in with these Roaches. It's highly unlikely that it's going to really accomplish too much for him, since Polt's playing very straight up this map.
The Reaper is most likely going to fall finally. Didn't spot the Roach Warren, though. That is very important, I guess. Did not see the Roach Warren. May have an idea that Roach were on the way, but it would have been very nice for Polt to confirm that there is indeed a Roach Warren. 6 Roach. I feel like he's making slightly more Roaches than he did in the previous game. Maybe 6-7. I guess it's kind of similar. He's making a couple of links as well. Hydra is a tiny bit paranoid about maybe a crazy hellbat push, but once again, it's a super economic opening on the other side of the map, and Hydra is going to be able to put the pieces together real soon. But I like this opening a lot more for Polt.
Yeah, the easiest way to tell that Hydra really doesn't want to go for anything crazy aggressive is usually as the roach is complete. That's right in ZBT, that moment is when you plant the baneling nest down and you get ready to make that big bust. But we see all these overlords being built, 9.
Wow.
He's opening up a tremendous amount of supply to just crank out pure roaches with all these upgrades complete.
That's how I play Zerg, Nate. I get supply blocks so often and I start overlords in 9 at a time.
It's not a bad way, you know. It's an investment, right? you still have all that larva at the end of the day. But you know, the biggest advantage of pushes like this are these roaches are going to be so difficult to kill because of that upgrade advantage he'll have.
I do feel that's like, I mean, like, I don't want to be overly critical or something, but it's like 112 supply out of 174 right now. It's very unlikely. He could have had a couple extra roaches if he truly wants to be aggressive. Then again, he never really has to worry about producing overlords again, but it could have been a slightly more effective than Hydra is currently doing this. I mean, this is very old school, right? There was a while that every single Terran player in Europe back then was complaining about just good old mass 1-1 roads, and it was incredibly difficult to stop. But over time, Terrans got so much better in dealing with it. Why do you think that Hydra is going for it right now, and do you think it's going to work?
I mean, Hydra just has to be realizing that it is actually a very economic build. But the thing is, he forced a little bit of a delay on the third base. He forced a delay of pretty much everything by getting those extra bunkers, the SCVs being pulled. He sees an opportunity to capitalize on just a big max out of roaches. And this is pretty risky. He doesn't really have too much of a follow-up to this.
He doesn't at all.
He's going to try to kill Polt right now. And this is the best opportunity to do so because those 1-1 upgrades aren't ready.
And we're looking at over 40 roaches over here. The splitty poles are down. This bunker is going to snipe immediately. Polt probably regretting right now floating that orbital command over when he did. The SCVs are going to get pulled, but even if Polt ends up losing 10, 12, 15 SCVs, if he stabilizes, I like his position. But will he stabilize though?
Hydra hit at the perfect moment, right before 1-1, right before the combat shields, even using those Zerglings to clean up the SCVs in the third. Polt has no economy. GG. Hydra snaps up a quick game 2 victory.
Those bio units being so far out of position, Polt floating the orbital over on the wrong time, and probably just not expecting this. I mean, this is becoming a very unfortunate series for Polt. I feel the majority of his reads are just wrong. You know, worried about the early game all-ins, it's not working. Then as soon as he feels like it's okay, this is going to turn into a macro game, suddenly there are 42 roaches on the way.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. Hydra is such a mechanically strong player. And the way that he set himself up for that big roach push, you know, you could say a lot of it comes down to if Polt, with that Reaper that you pointed out, if it doesn't, he doesn't see the Roach Warren, it looks pretty much exactly like the last game. Of course, he saw the roaches that were made at first, but he kind of threw those away. And you make this small poke, and what this tells Polt is like, okay, well, 5-6 roaches isn't normally an aggressive number, so you know he's not that worried about it. He's just going to follow this up with a very standard, normal follow-up, and Hydra clearly just switched things so far in the other direction from the last game that Polt was completely blindsided.
Hydra is really playing the mental game over here as well, because in Coda he showed those 5-6 roaches as well. Back then he just used them to pull units out of position. This time he shows 5 or 6 roaches, goes back and comes back with 42. I mean, this is not fair, Nate.
Now, you know, that's the thing, though. If you want to take down a champion, you got to be able to make moves like that. He's getting inside Polt's head now because he's saying, yeah, you know, most of the time, Hydra is actually a pretty straight-up player. We've seen, like, you know, a Roach Bane all-in from him in the last season when they did play in the big finals. But overall, very clean, good, regular macro play. Expedition lost. Now that you've seen he can already make big Roach plays, this is a map where, as a Terran player, you should be horrified. I
mean, this is a semi-finals. We were all looking at it, that this could potentially be, once again, one of the more epic matches that we've seen in the entire season of WCS. And suddenly, Nate, it feels like we've just started, but our reigning champion, Polt, our 3-time WCS champion, is down 0-2. I mean, we've praised him for his comebacks over and over again over the last few years, but this is going to be one of the most miraculous ones of all time if he somehow, some way, finds a way back into this series, because so far, it just seems like it's all Hydra.
Yeah, you know, you said it best when we started this series, Kev. You're not going to come back in a semifinal down from 3-1. So he has to make a miracle happen now and bring this series back. He has to win 3 maps in a row if he wants to move on to the grand final. If he wants a shot just to have the opportunity to play against Lilbo to renew that title as the World Championship Series Premier League champion.
Map number 3 is going to be played on Expedition Lost. Both players seem to be ready. We are pretty much ready to go as well. It is everything or nothing right now for your reigning champion, Captain America himself, Nate. But you can go ahead and introduce our lovely Zerg first.
All right, hope you guys are ready. This could be the deciding match of this series for this gentleman in the Southwest. Representing Root Gaming, he's up 2-0, he's Hydra! And his opponent, the Blue Terran, everything on the line for the returning champion. Give it up for CM Stars, Polt! Well, Kev, he said he only wins when it matters. It really matters now.
It really does matter. It will matter the next 3 maps, and he's going to have to start on Expedition Lost. Nate, I've seen you mess around a little bit with tanks on this map as well every now and then, especially if you're worried about a crazy aggressive play. Are you expecting something like that of Hydra? Well, Hydra.
This drone, man.
This drone?
I'm already. I think the game's starting to tell us itself, Kev.
Is this Fenner versus Nathanius?
We could be very well seeing a proxy hatch of some kind by these rocks. Now, this is something that has been employed pretty heavily. Most of the time we see Zerg players do crazy builds like this, but you know, at this point you'd think most Terran players are scouting for it. I sure do. It's pretty scary, but there it is.
I mean, this is going to be a command center first for Polt.
Oh boy.
I mean, that is not the end of the world just yet. I mean, you can always pick it up, right, and float it to the high ground.
Well, here's the thing. If you're in a scenario where you're up against someone and you're down 0-2 and you go command center first, you're much less likely to have that extra SCV roaming around your main. Like, normally you build your barracks at the ramp, and then you would check around with that SCV. But he's starting this up. He really shouldn't have any inkling, because his focus isn't going to be on his main. It's going to be walling off his natural, and he hasn't sent an SCV scout out yet.
One thing that is kind of important, Nate, is that the rally point of the barracks is towards the rocks. So Polt, he is going to check for this eventually. I'm not sure if that's with the SCV when it finishes up the barracks.
But the hatchery will already be done at close to around the same time that this barracks completes.
But then it's not over yet. Like,
the trickiest part will be how many extra drones is Hydra going to send across the map? I think we see 2 now. So he's going to look to start 2 spine crawlers. 1 Marine being built at a time out of that barracks is actually not enough to take down both of these before they construct, especially considering that he'll probably build a queen from that hatchery too, and a few Zerglings as well. This is a really tricky spot. Polt's most likely going to be forced to retreat into his main base. Holding on to both against a Speedling follow-up is going to be very difficult.
Polt still has absolutely no idea that this is going down. He's even going to drop a bunker on the low ground. That is not a bunker that is going to be extremely crucial in this game. That's safe to say, at least. This Marine will most likely be the very first time that Polt is going to be aware of what Hydra is cooking over here. And man, I really got to applaud Hydra for the way that he has approached this series so far. He's switching it up. Here we go. The Marine will spot it immediately, Nate.
That is not a fun. That's not a fun thing to see, Kev. Those spine crawlers, 3 spines, do so much damage, especially to the structure. You know, those rocks will go down very quickly, and once that opens up, the thing is, Polt wants to start to get defenses. He actually needs to build a wall around these rocks before this creep spreads up the ramp. Like, he's not going to even be able to close this off against Speedlings.
I have Spines there. I mean, Speedlings are going to stream into his main base. Of course, Spines could eventually root into the main base as well. Polt is going to have to salvage that bunker on the low ground ASAP. Every single resource that is available right now, he should use it. He shouldn't even let that bunker finish, but I guess he was panicking a little bit. I mean, he's not going to go for the wall up anymore, Nate. He's going to be like, okay, there will be Zerglings in my main base. As long as I can keep those spine crawlers away, this is going to be an extremely difficult hold for our reigning champ.
I feel really, really concerned right now for our reigning champion. Hydra's going to move right up. 3 spine crawlers planting themselves inside of Polt's base. SCVs are coming. The bunker's going to finish. Can they actually hold this position? The Zerglings are getting in on top of the SCVs. First spine crawler is planted. Second spine crawler is planted. Bunker's in the orange. It's getting lower and lower hit points. Zerglings are targeting down the SCVs. Hydra types the forward into the chat as he continues to knock this bunker down. Unload. It's burning. 1 bunker remaining. A grin on his face as Hydra knocks down the last of Polt's defenses. There's nothing here to fight. A single siege tank about to finish up, but the Zerglings are dancing in his main.
And the worst thing as well, these spine crawlers are in range of the Rexes as well. There is 1 siege tank out, but Zerglings will keep on streaming in. Hydra will once again, Nate, for the 4th time this year, have a shot at winning a StarCraft 2 Premier League tournament.
As the siege tank is pushed back, the last vestige of defense, the last hope, this 1 unit for Polt's tournament run here in the top 4. Hydra cheering, fist pumping. He knows he's done critical damage. Polt is so far back. I mean, these spine crawlers can move up once again. He's just moving his chess piece pieces forward, Roddy.
I mean, Tempo is going to have to change the song lyrics, man. Not in your natural links are dancing, but in your main base, Nate.
That's right. There's absolutely nothing left for Polt. GG. Hydra is going to the grand finals of the World Championship Series Season 2 Premier League.
Flawless victory, man. He wants it so bad, Nate. And once more, this is going to be his 4th final this year, and this could very well be his best chance to finally take it all. He got his revenge for Season 1. I mean, awesome series by Hydra. Absolutely phenomenal performance.
Hydra just managed to take every step of the way. Let's hear words from him himself on the stage with Chobra.
And Hydra goes to the finals 2 seasons in a row. Hydra, you've probably been waiting for this exact moment all season long to get your revenge on Polt. How does it feel?
It was pretty one-sided, I guess. Actually, I'm a little bit disappointed in him because I was expecting some fresh build from him, but yeah, it was just normal build and just boring style. So yeah.
Oh, a one-sided, pretty much a predicted match. Now, the way that both of you guys were talking, both players sounded as if this semifinal, whoever wins, is going to be the champion. They are going to take that trophy. Do you feel confident enough? Little Bao said it's time to beat some Koreans.
Yeah, I have confidence, but he seems very good from now. So yeah, I have to think about him a little bit, I guess.
Just a little bit. All right, well, Hydra, you've made it to the finals 2 seasons in a row. The crowd is loving you right now. How happy are you to have made it to that final stage here in Canada?
I love Canada.
He loves Canada, he loves StarCraft, and he's going to the finals later tonight. Everyone, wait for Little Bao versus Hydra.
Revenge is best served cold, and Hydra completes it as he goes 3-0 versus the reigning champion. No longer reigning champion. He is dethroned, and now Hydra finds himself in the grand finals against our Frenchman, Lil Bo. Joining me over here, we have Huck and In Control once again, and that was, as many people expected it to be, maybe more so than people expected it to be, an easy victory for Hydra, Jeff.
It shocked Hydra. Yeah, he said on stage, he was like, I'm disappointed. Those were boring builds, and it was quite easy. And that's kind of what can happen in these championship situations where it's going into the finals. Hopefully it's not the finals, but in those moments, one player can rise up and the other can fall pretty hard. And in this case, it was Hydra that rose up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Polt denied a 4th championship, a chance at it at least. But let's continue on with Hydra for a little bit. His 4th final in the WCS circuit this year. He's failed 3 times. Is this a 4th fail, or is this the final, like the 4th time lucky kind of final?
He has to win. No one wants to be that guy. There's almost a tradition among Zerg players, especially Yellow in Brood War, being the Kong line. It's happened even in StarCraft 2. Hydra doesn't want to be another one of those. And he's got a really good shot of being Little Bow Wow here. He just has to continue to do what he's been doing, and he can't get nervous. He said he respects him a little bit. I think he should just take that idea and throw it right out the window and say, you know what? I'm way better than you. I'm going to crush you.
I think a lot of people are expecting that as well. Just even if you're not so familiar with StarCraft, you look at it and you say, European versus Korean, Korean wins. Like, that's kind of what most people will be thinking, but it's not that far from the truth. Hydra is completely dominant. But on the flip side of things, Lobo is not someone to be underestimated. We've seen in the past, in many different tournaments, you can take Polt versus TLO, for example, in the round of 32. You underestimate, you can end up losing. And that's something that is a reality here in the grand finals, Jeff.
Oh, absolutely. And it's actually the round of 32 where we do go back, where Lilbo did actually beat Hydra. So, I mean, you know, again, I don't want to make that too much of a story, because we've seen how that ends up with even Polt. He's like, oh yeah, same result, but when I need to win, I will.
Yeah.
But that being said, Lil Bao is having, or Lil Bo, I'm starting to, gosh dang it.
A little Bow Wow.
Everyone's messing me up. Anyways, he's on fire. He's playing really, really well, and he looks confident as well, and he's young enough that I don't know that a stage with Hydra on it is enough to rattle his cage and make him come unglued. I actually think he's got kind of the swagger that we've seen before from French players to stand on the stage as a young man and to do incredible things. And that would be, what an amazing historic event it would be if he did do that.
Well, that could be what we see later today, and you at home do not want to miss that. We won't be going straight into the grand finals, as we have coming up next the Red Bull Legacy of the Void Archon tournament, where Chris Huck Loranger is going to be playing with Scarlet up against Violet and Massa in the grand finals. Do not go anywhere. This is coming up next.